Hey Michael, how you doing?
I'm great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. What time is it out there? 9?
Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you for getting up early on a weekend. I appreciate it.
No worries. I've been getting into a habit of getting up early anyway. And
Okay.
so I'm glad we chatted because then I was like, you were like, oh, I'm in South Florida. And I was like, I'm glad I said 12 because if I said had 9, I would have been like,
There's worse reasons to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? It's okay. I would have done it. No problem.
yeah,
Thank you for
yeah.
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited I listened to your episode from the podcast and you talked about like Jimmy and your mom, a little bit about your goddaughter. So I'm excited to kind of connect and talk
Yeah,
about the Surviving Sibling Summit and, help promote this so that we can get more people to it.
absolutely. Thank you. I listened to your episode too, and it's just a beautiful story about your sister. And it's just like this is tough. It doesn't matter how long it's been. And like I think Maya getting us all together. Like I ran into her on TikTok and I was like, what? And we
Oh,
started
cool.
talking and doing the episode. Like that was the first time that I really told the story to more than close friends or so. Yeah, I'm excited. And by the way, this is not the usual setup. My setup will be different for the summit. This is the quick recording wrestling podcasting setup here.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
Yours looks much nicer. I believe there's a
Well,
story behind all of these things, though.
yeah, no, I mean, I loved when you were like, oh, I have a friend who follows you and,
Yeah,
because what, it's been 22 years since I graduated high school,
yeah,
so
yeah.
kind of like a blast from the past.
Such a they are such the Logan family, and we're recording this. It's okay. It's years later. I could say it because in the storyline we were enemies for years. Like we feuded from
Uh,
Delaware to I believe I spent a lot of time in Lowell, and they didn't like my partner and I. We were, but I love those guys. They're a great family, and anytime I would come up there, actually my cousin was in an assisted living facility up there. We used to do shows at the Polish American Veterans Center there and a
mm.
great building. And I would go visit my cousin on the way, and the people who worked there were like fans of the Logans, and they'd be like, "You're gonna get your ass kicked tonight." Like, there's no, like they would. So, I have a lot of great memories up there, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Cool. Yeah. And so have you been to the summit before?
I have not. So I met Maya, I'm going to say less than a year ago I saw her doing one of her lives on TikTok and saw the Surviving Siblings podcast. And just by commenting, we got into a conversation and she said, please, I'm still casting season 8 here. There's still spots open, especially for the homicide aspect of it. Please fill out the questionnaire, the application. And I did it right away and we recorded it. And she's such a pro, that like, it felt like, I felt like I was talking to somebody I've known my whole life. Like we just sat there, we went through it, and then after it came out, I believe it came out in September. She invited me to the workshop in November, which
Mm.
was I was on the session with Audrey, and the sharing sessions I found were um, the most. That's what affected me the most is speaking to newer siblings that are new in the grief process and just talking to them and great speakers like Lenny and it was the workshop was a very rewarding experience, but this will be my first summit.
Cool, cool. Same here. I kind of bumped into Maya at a different conference and we only like passed each other by. So like we never really stopped and like talked with each other.
Yeah.
So I was on her email list and she kind of was promoting the summit this year, like in January when I saw it. And I was like, oh, let me reach out. And, because I was like, it's cool to have something that is so specific to sibling grief because there aren't a lot of resources. Like there are more now, right? So
Yeah.
like for you and for like even for you, like your loss has been longer than mine. Like mine will be 24 in August. And like
Yeah.
I was 16 and then it was like you're when you're a teen and you're like or if you're a kid, like you don't know what's available, right? And so it's cool to
Absolutely.
have this summit be specifically for sibling grief because it's starting to put visibility out there for us and for others.
And so many people don't realize that we're out there, right? It's kind of forgotten about in a lot of ways. I hate to say it that way, but people can always say, "Oh, I know how you feel." And it's like, no, you don't know how you feel. They mean well saying it, but having, a specific community for siblings, and again, all walks of life. It's just been such an honor to be a part of this for the last, um, I'd say 6 months to less than a year. It's something I always wanted to be a part of. And when I was 16 and my brother was killed when I was 15, we were a part of a group called Parents of Murdered Children back then. And they would meet, monthly in a Calvary Hospital, which was a hospice facility in the Bronx. And I spoke when I was 16 years old at a conference. They invited me to Hunter College, and that was like an incredible experience. But they suggested at that point starting a sibling group, but I was too young to do that. Like I didn't really get it or understand. So it's been a really great to be a part of and meet so many people like yourself.
Yeah. And are you presenting at the summit?
Yes. So last in the workshop, I was part of a panel. And then this time I am presenting anger after sibling loss, which is on my own the first time. So I've been here, not in the garage with the wrestling stuff, but bunkered down, seriously working on um, what it is I want to say and how to express it. And then Heather, who lost her brother as well, and I will be on a sharing session for homicide sibling loss. So I'm looking forward to that too, because that is, a completely different circumstance for people. My mom, God bless her soul, would always say murder has an edge to it. And it does. Today, as Stephen, you and I are speaking today, it's the 34th anniversary of my brother's murder. And it's
Wow.
crazy. Friday night going into Saturday, April 3rd into April 4th, 1992. And I mean, it feels like it was yesterday. So for those people that are going through that, those siblings, especially the younger ones, the anger that comes with it, especially in my family's case, my brother's murder has never been solved. Like
Wow.
that's something extraordinarily heavy to carry around. And especially those first few years when you really have to like accept it and know like it's not like TV. I always say that, like real life is not like TV. Where I grew up is a place where it is like the movies where it's never rat on your friends, keep your mouth shut. And you're from Massachusetts, you know how it can be like
Yeah.
not like television. Real life is a lot of times these things don't, there really is no such thing as closure. So I'm trying to focus on that aspect of it. Like it's okay to feel the anger because, for any of us, but especially, in certain situations where your sibling had no control of the situation. It was just taken from you. I refer to as my brother was taken from us. So that's what my presentation is going to be about. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity. We'll see how it goes, right? I don't know. It's the first time doing it alone, but I think Maya has faith in all of us that we'll share our stories well. And especially, I was just listening to your um, discussing the breathing techniques and things like that. The physical aspect, it's so important. Nobody realizes that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that shifted for me doing what I do because my background is in social work. So I have my master's in social work and I've provided therapy. I went to therapy myself. I've been to grief support groups. I've gone to the conferences and even this now, right? So talking with a person, talking with someone who's had like a sibling loss, there's like this connection that we have that connects us together
Yeah.
without us having to like know each other forever, right? And so when I got certified to do somatic breath work, I thought it was just going to be a tool for me to learn to teach other people because not everyone wants to talk about their grief or their trauma. Sometimes it's more painful to talk about it. And sometimes they're just aren't words. Like, you know what happened, right? But then it's like, why do I have to explain that? Or I just don't have the words to fit my experience. And so as I was going through the certification, I had my own experience with grief that, I instantly thought of my sister Stacy, and then I just cried during the session. And like I wasn't expecting that to happen. And it was just for me, it was beautiful. Like people look at emotions as like, ooh, they're gross, like stay away from them. Like even when you talk about like anger, people like anger is this like bad emotion to have. And it's like, it's not like it's an emotion like every other emotion, and we should be allowed to feel it, right? Just like our
And we can't
grief.
pretend we don't.
Yeah. Because when you do, then it makes it worse. Then you become more angry or like comes out in different ways. So having my own experience in breath work kind of shifted how I work with people because I know therapy works for like so many people, but then some people get stuck. Like you can talk about your grief so much to the point where you feel better, but then you still have like this weight. It could be anger, it could be guilt, it could be shame, like whatever that might be, but sometimes there isn't a word for it. But breath work helps to kind of do the work from what we call the bottom up, right? So when we talk about therapy, it's from the top down because we're working from our mind to understand our experience, and then that kind of shapes how we feel versus activating the body to get the things that are stuck to come up and out.
And so, but like it's the, we need to breathe, right? And if you can
Yeah.
focus it, and sometimes like taking a step back, I agree with you. Taking a step back and just can take you out of a moment if you're having a hard time. So that's incredibly important. That's great that you're sharing that too. It's I'm excited too for the summit to meet new people. And I from what I understand, it's the Surviving Siblings biggest event of the year. And there'll be a lot of people there and to connect with. And I always tell people too, like you can reach out to me personally anytime. I'm there. It's just, what we've experienced is, I don't know how to say it. It's, you only know if you've been there, right? No matter how many years it's
Mhm.
been. And you and I were both very young when this happened. Like I was 15 for a month. You said you were 16 when you lost Stacy, right?
Yeah.
It's, I'm almost 50. I turned 49 a couple of weeks ago. And it's like, it doesn't change how you feel. It doesn't matter how much time has passed. That loss is still there. We are six children, and my brother is the third of the six of us. My mom would always say he laid under her heart, and it's true. Like another thing is this what we're doing right now. You and I are having this great discussion across the country, across time zones
Yeah.
in 2026. Well, when my brother was killed, it was 1992. My family didn't have a camcorder. I have no recordings of my brother's voice. I have no video footage of him. We have photographs and memories. And yet somehow
Mhm.
we've kept his memory alive. And that's what you have to do. It's just, a different time. Like now, the one good thing about all the technology is that we all have a digital footprint. You can, not that it replaces anybody, but my mom passed away 2 years ago. I can hear her voice. She would think I was crazy for recording her in the kitchen, the incredible meals. And now, like, we're still feeling her loss, but she had this unbelievably incredible life. She fought lung cancer for 15 years and survived and watched her grandchildren grow up. And this time of year, March 15th is my birthday, March 17th is Jimmy's birthday, to April 4th was always really tough every year. Even a little bit last night, I still have a hard time with it. But knowing that they're all together again, and I truly believe that. Like I know that when my mom passed away, that my brother was and my father were right there waiting for her. And that is comforting now. Like to go so many years of the anger of it, of like these people killed my brother and got away with it, to what? They have to live with what they did. My family's together again, and I know they're always around us. That's a huge shift that happened for me. I'm going to talk about that in the session. But it took about 30 years to get there, though.
Mhm. Yeah, it's one of the things that people often say is it takes time, but I also know that people hate that phrase because when you hear it, it's like, I don't want it to take time. Like, what the hell? Can this be over now?
Yeah, of course. And it never is over. Like, what is it really over? You
No.
feel differently about it, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't wake up or think about it, or those moments where, like one great thing is my nieces and nephews remind me of my brother a lot, but
Mm,
they only know him through pictures and stories. And, it's your sibling is missing. Your sister's always going to be missing. It's not like, 20 years from now, it's not going to be any different. So there's no time limit on this. And
yeah.
people expect
I
you
have
to get over it.
exactly. I have a good friend, and she always says that closure is for bank accounts, not for love accounts.
Wow. I'm writing that down. That is closures for bank accounts, not love accounts. Absolutely. Tell your friend I said thank you too, because I don't think you could have said that any better. I mean, when are you supposed to stop feeling that way.
Hmm.
They're not coming back, give
No,
me,
yeah.
it's, I always, I understand because it's uncomfortable for people, you know, like there were moments when I was younger, when I didn't know what I wouldn't go to funerals or anything like that, you know, because you don't know what to say, you know?
Hmm.
And there were, unfortunately, where I grew up, there were other young people that were killed for no reason, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And over the years, like, I would try to get the word to friends or anybody like, listen, if they, if they ever need me, I'm around, like, because you can't, especially in a murder situation, you can't tell somebody like, I know how you feel, and but there is an awkwardness, right? You don't know what to say to people. Unfortunately, you and I do.
Yeah. I think, I mean, if there's anything anyone takes away is like just like asking what their name is, right? Or just doing the little things. Like if you're super close with them, like just go over, right? Or just say, hey, I'm gonna come over and cook
Yeah.
you dinner or clean the house. Or if they have kids, like I'll watch the kids for 2 hours and you can be in your room or go sit outside, or like it's the little things that matter. And even you said this in your interview on the Surviving Siblings podcast, is when it gets further out, like continue just say, hey, like how are you doing? Like, I'm thinking about Jimmy, like just like say
Yeah.
their name and say I'm thinking about you. Like these little things mean so much and it'll
It's
go a long way.
it's 6 months later, a year later. I remember, there's friends if somebody like lost their wife but again, you listen to the episode. My 3-year-old goddaughter is my best friend's only child who was at my mom's wake, playing with everybody, comforting people, and was sitting on my lap 2 months before she passed away. It was not anything that anybody saw coming. And to this day, I don't know what to say. And we speak every day. Every day, he's my brother since I'm 9 years old, and his wife. And like, that's all you can do is be there. And, again, after everything settles down, when my brother was killed, there were hundreds of people there. He was a young 18-year-old kid. There were hundreds of people there. We had giant bags full of mass cards and all this, I called it in the interview with Maya like madness because it was 3 days. It's that 6 months, a year later, 5 years later, just checking on someone. Hey, how you doing? You doing okay? It's so important. It really is because, you know, those moments when they're alone is when it really hurts. And I hope our community gets in touch like that and knows that we're all here. Like I'm sure anybody who wanted to reach out to you knows you're there for them.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the big thing that I feel grief makes us confront, right? Or it confronts them. So if someone's trying to support me, because I remember I had friends in high school who like 10 years later, like we reconnected and like we hung out and like all that good stuff. And they said then, like, 10 years after my sister died, like, we didn't know what to say to you, right?
Yeah.
So, like, and then again, when you think about the teen perspective, like, when you're a teen, like, obviously, like, when you're a teen, you're like, you definitely don't know what to say. You're like,
Yeah.
like, you want to be there for your friend. But I think just being there makes a big difference, right? Just, I don't know what to say, but like, let's go for a walk or like, let's, sit and stare at the TV or like, just the physical presence can mean more than actually trying to come up with something.
Yeah. And also like when that happened too, I was away living with my aunt out in Long Island, which, like I said, was like a 20-minute drive, but it might as well have been. And when I went back to school out there, somehow and by the way, Long Island and the Bronx in the early 90s were two different worlds. I was in but when I went back there, there were somehow everybody knew, like from the paper, the New York Times, there was an article and word spreads pretty fast. I went back home for a couple weeks, and when I went back, there were people who really went above and beyond out of their way to say, hey, Michael, like people who knew me from when I was younger, or they were very sensitive to that. One of my close friends' mothers was a therapist and wrote the most incredible card. Like, and when you're 15, you don't understand that. At 50, I get it. Like, what a great gesture that was. They're looking out for you, and I agree with you. It's important to just, um, reach out to those people and let them know, like, it may not be tomorrow, it may not be the day after, but if you need me in a year, I'm here. I always
Mhm.
believe that.
Yeah, and I think it's like everyone has like, and this is obviously what people say is like everyone grieves differently, right? Some people get support right away, some people get it years later, and then until, resources like, Maya and the Summit exist, then you don't know. So it's great that it's growing, and because if you don't have the options, then you're left alone. Like I know a sibling who attended a group that was mainly parents, but she felt very welcome there. But she didn't know that siblings or sibling resources existed.
Yeah.
So then, like
Neither did I.
20 years later, she was like, oh, wow, like, there's a group and there are groups of siblings. And it's like, but then it's like crappy because then she went her whole life, she got support, which is great, but also like how awesome it is to meet other siblings to connect on a different level.
That it's targeted like that. Again, just scrolling on TikTok looking for old TV or wrestling or whatever, and then I see Maya on live. I'm like, what is this? Like, wow, you know. And we connected immediately, and I'm like, what an awesome thing that she's done to create this community. And I know, like, you've done a lot of work in this too, but I didn't know it was out there. And just I've listened to so many of the episodes going back, Maya's story to begin with, so many different episodes, and it's like it is not um really talked about that much. The sibling, loss is not, especially considering how close, some siblings are not as close, but like our family, my mom's last message, the last day of her life, and she, for the last 3 days of her life, was able to speak to everyone, was able to, she had just such a beautiful life. And her last message to all of us over and over again was stay together. Like I said that too. And it's the truth, like whether I think this and also losing my 3-year old goddaughter, you've changed my perspective on anything. I don't care what your problem is. I don't care. Meaning like you're not going to bother me. Like to put things in perspective, things that I would think are such a big deal a long time ago. I always had that perspective because of my brother, but like you really have to put things in perspective. Like um losing my goddaughter Teresa was like, I don't know how to describe it. Because I'm going through it right now as we speak about it. Every day I look
Yeah.
at her picture in my dining room and I'm like, I still can't believe this. But um parent, sibling, you know, the pain is not different. So siblings shouldn't really be forgotten about. I'm very proud and honored that there's this community out here and we're a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a big thing that I hope, is where the shift goes, right? Because even with the label of the forgotten mourner, and I feel like sometimes we can like attach ourselves to these labels. Like there's, like you said, there's truth to it. Like we're forgotten about because people will ask about like parents, or they'll just say like, I could never imagine the death of a child, and they say these things to our faces, and it's like, well, my sister died, so why can't
Yeah.
you acknowledge my grief? And I think it's kind of, it makes me think of like even how your mom's mindset of, just loving and caring for people and being there for each other and not like not judging. And it's just like, how can we do more of that versus like, oh, like I am like people who hold on to the label of I am a forgotten mourner versus the world views me as the forgotten mourner, but we can choose to be seen and visible when we have things like the summit and each other and having these conversations and really just talking about it.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Talking about it. Like I said a little while ago, no video, no raw audio, but like that's one thing that my parents are great at. My mom said, I have 5 other children. That a murder, an unsolved murder would have broken apart anybody, right? It would have
Yeah.
destroyed anybody. I know I can't imagine getting out of bed after that. And that's not what my parents did. My parents had to continue to raise their 5 children, and we all stuck together and got through it. And then, like with the birth of my nieces and nephews, and that changed things. But I will say this, having incredible friends around you, I think is so important too, especially those first couple of years. Like I had friends that I mean, my whole life to this day, the friends that I've been blessed enough to have. from that time, from the time I was a little kid to now. I'm not saying growing up in the Bronx or Lowell was a bad thing, right? It's just where we're from. This is what.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change anything about it because of the friendships that I have to this day, that the loyalty of people being there for you, especially those first couple of years where, my one of my closest friends, my friend Dana, her parents like literally had me and her brothers, and we didn't celebrate
Mm.
Christmas for like 3 or 4 years. Like, how are you going to celebrate Christmas? You know, we couldn't. It just was not possible. And they would have me at their house every Christmas Eve, like treat me like family, all my friends that were around me to keep me out of trouble. Cause you can go one or two ways as a teen in a situation like that, carrying the anger around, all of that. So this summit and this community is a gift to me because for if I can give back to younger people that are going through this, like as much as I want to be young, I'm not young anymore. You know what I mean? Time creeps up pretty fast. To take our
Yep.
experience, right? And you've you lost your sister many years ago. It's tough. To take that
Mhm.
experience and share it to help other people is an incredible gift.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like the example thing, right? Like if you don't like I think the biggest thing that happens is when your sibling dies, it's like no one else's sibling has died. Like this is such a unique experience. And I think a big part of that is the shock that comes with grief. Like, and even you kind of talked about it in the interview with Maya, is that you don't believe it. Like it's not true. Like, I want to see like they're not like no, like no.
Yeah,
And yet, you being 30 plus years out and me being, 20 years out, we serve as examples of like it doesn't have to define who we are. And you might be in the crappy place if it's like 0, 1 or 2 years, because even in grief, to me, like 2 years out is still early grief. Like
100%.
zero, it's you're still like figuring it out. And then, we get to be examples of like it doesn't always have to feel like that. Is it painful? Yes. Is it always going to be painful? For me, I say no. Like there'll be times where they're painful moments, but then there's also like joy and love and hope because we get to reframe our grief. It doesn't always have to be this like ugly bad thing.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was saying to you, I've worked with my great friend. His name is Chris Page for many, many years. And he's, a great therapist and friend, like close friend of mine. And just me, I turned that corner a couple of years ago. And the gifts that have come since I've turned that corner, like opportunities that if I was still pissed off every day and angry, not that I always was, but oh, wow, let's celebrate Jimmy's life. Let me put his name in a book in Barcelona. Like we walked into a graffiti shop on the way to, see the Basilica, the Sagrada Familia, and my wife and I walked in, and over there they celebrate graffiti. My brother was tagging everywhere when he was young. His tags were on those pillars for like 17 years. So for me
Wow.
to walk in and put his name in a book over there, which is what he would have done if he was alive, all the graffiti artists trade books back and forth. I have a great gift in the house of my friend Charlie Echo wrote a book about his best friend who was Jimmy's mentor, who passed away, accidentally very young in 1989
Mm.
in the graffiti world. The guy was a legend. His name was Paulie Zoom. And Charlie reached out to me. I hadn't talked to him in like 30 years. He's the one who did my brother was Jimmy Taz. He did the Tasmanian Devil, James Tobin wall around the corner from our house a week after Jimmy died. And it was beautiful and it
Wow.
was there for many years. And he's like, hey, I'm putting this book together. I found this incredible amount of old material from Paulie Zoom's archive of his work. I want your brother to be included in this. I was like, tell me what you need, when you need it, and how fast. And just, what a gift that is for not having the footage and not having recordings to put 6 pages in a book to my brother, who people who didn't know him 34 years after he died is like, it's such a gift. These things present themselves. And I wasn't looking for many years. I wasn't looking for those signs. I wasn't, you know, being like so caught up in the anger of it really messed me up for a long time, all of us. But those opportunities to now turn around and go, hey, you know what? He was here. He was a great kid. Everybody who knew him loved him. And we're never going to let him be forgotten about. That's the focus I have in my older age.
Yeah, definitely. It makes me think about something that another sibling has said is that, sometimes people can die twice, right? There's their death, and then there's when people stop talking about them,
Yeah.
right? And so as long as we're talking about them, then they'll never die. Like we'll always have their memories of sharing them with other people, with other siblings, and even for me, it's like any other like I meet people who grieve different deaths, whether it's like a spouse or a friend or whatever, even a pet. And I know even that's probably a big controversy when people compare pets,
No, what are
but
you talking? I mean, pets are members
it's
of our
cute.
family. Like we
Yeah.
lost our dog who was 18 years old. I still have a table
Wow.
with a tribute to her. Like my
Yeah.
wife adopted this, Bahi. She was so sweet. Like they're a member of your family. What is love different? Like love is love, right? I
Yeah.
agree with you
So
on that
so
one.
yeah.
I mean,
So how
I'm
can
not
we
comparing it, but
Yeah, but how can we just be there for people? You're like maybe they say the dumb things, right? Because I think the reason I say that is because sometimes people will say like, "Oh, my sibling died," or "My so and so died," and someone might say, "I understand, my pet died," and
yeah,
then there's just like this like, "No, you don't," and it's true that they don't understand like your loss, your grief, or your pain,
yeah,
and yet they're trying to connect with you on a level of like I understand like my pain, so like right, so sometimes it's whether it's the unintentioned well-meaning kind of thing, like they're not trying to be hurtful, but they're trying to connect with you on a grief, on a pain level, because like you said, like even I think about my mom and my sister, like I have a younger sister. She was two when Stacy died. So again, different dynamics of sibling grief and like when someone dies where it's like they existed, but like you don't have like full memories. And Taylor will be 26 in
wow,
June. And so she had a bunny, and a year or two ago, the bunny had died, but it was like not feeling good. So my mom had taken her into Boston because there weren't any like pet hospitals in Nashua, New Hampshire. And so she went down to Boston with the bunny, and the doctors were like, well, we can do surgery, and then there's still a chance that the bunny could die, or we could just, in a sense, like euthanize her and my mom, had to make the difficult decision to say
yeah,
like,
it's
well,
tough.
yeah. And it's like, it's painful. Like it doesn't matter. Like grief is like this thing that sucks. And community, for me, community is the magic. It's the cure. Well, the cure of lessening the pain of grief.
I agree. And then also what you were saying a second ago, if somebody's, trying to tell you, I lost my pet, I understand. It may not be the same connection, but they're making an effort to show you empathy. I would be grateful for that instead of somebody just acting like nothing's wrong or like, no matter what the message is, if there is a message, it means that they meant well and that they have empathy for you and or they have, they care. If you care enough to say something, because there were so many times, especially being young, like I said earlier, I didn't know what to say to people, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
you didn't know what to say, so you don't say anything, which sometimes could be worse. So, I would be grateful for that effort if somebody were to, say something like that. But again, that's also me being older and understanding a little more, I guess.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It comes a time, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's just a part of life, right? You like we have these conversations and like we do change, even though like people will say like we don't change, like we do. When we have these conversations, when we hear these podcasts, when we hear these interviews, when we like watch TV and movies, when there's more talk about like grief and how to connect and how to manage and you know how to how to move forward with grief. Like obviously we can't, it's always going to be there, right? Like unless they come back alive, like our grief is always going to be there with us, but
Yeah, of
it
course.
doesn't mean it holds us back, like, right?
No, of course.
It doesn't have to define who we are.
There's, and like you said, watching movies, like there are certain things. I'm a movie fanatic. I'm a huge, and there are things when I watch over the years that will literally take me right back there and be like, you know, or how, that make me think about the direct circumstances of how my brother died or that
Mhm.
time or whatever. And that's okay to feel that, right? It's okay. Like, even for a couple minutes of like, wow, that took me back there, it just means you don't forget. Like
Yeah.
those emotions are never going to go away. We're always going to feel these things.
Hmm. And I think that kind of, for me, full circles back to like why I do breath work with people who are grieving, because grief also lives in the body, right?
Oh
So it's
yeah.
not just something that lives in the mind, it lives in the body. So if you think about it, you're gonna feel it. And then when you feel it, you're gonna think about it. So it's kind of like this circular thing, right? And so when you kind of also like sometimes we need to breathe, like exactly like when we hold our breath, when we shallow breathe, it just keeps our bodies contracted, and so we're gonna be naturally anxious because we're like
Yeah, of
but
course.
breathing into it expands and it releases a little bit of that angst and that anxiety and the grief that we're feeling.
Like there's moments we all have them. If I get annoyed or whatever, or fired
Oh
up
yeah.
about something where I got to stop, take in 7 seconds, hold it, blow it out. Actually, for years, and I always go back to it. One of my favorite things is Diamond Dallas Page Yoga, DDPY. And, like it was originally like created as yoga for regular guys. And then, he's an older guy who, out of getting injured, developed a system. And I always loved his breathing techniques. And, if I need to stop sometimes, there's a pose he calls diamond cutter, where it's like, you raise your arms up and right out. And like, it always helps getting that
Mhm.
whatever's sitting in there out and resetting. It's always helpful.
Yeah. It's And I grew up doing sports, so that's
Yeah.
always been my outlet. So even though like I went to conferences and like even providing therapy and going to therapy has been helpful, for me it's always been like activity, like movement, and Stacey did sports as well. Like we both grew up doing cheerleading, gymnastics, and dance. And so even after she died, I was still kind of around like her friends that she cheered with. So like that was super helpful. But for me, being active has always been a big component of getting rid of stress and grief and tension and anger.
Yeah. And that's what all this is like when I was in my 20s, chasing these dreams of, because what affected me the most was I couldn't really look forward. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, don't tell me about tomorrow because it ain't here yet. Like, and who says it's going to be? So I spent
Yeah.
my 20s like chasing these crazy wrestling dreams and being on the road every weekend and going out there and getting out this like, okay, you can step into these boots and put a character on and get out all of this, um, angst or anything else in the form of art, right? Like it's the same as any other performance, but it really
Yeah.
was about, not stopping, being on the run, right? Like, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And, you know, the gift of it was the friendships I made all over the place. Like that's, everywhere I went, because at this point, like you said a minute ago, community is the most important thing in the world. Your friends who know that you're going to be there for them. Because now we're all going to have losses. We're all going to have hard times. We're all going to have circumstances that come up that are completely out of our control. And community is probably the most important thing because, there's never a time when we don't need somebody to just hear us, right?
Hmm.
And it's so important. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's also important as get even as we get older, right? Because I think as you get, depending on where you are, as you get older, you have less access to making friends. Like it can be difficult to make friends, and then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I have a dead sibling, but how do I like? It's not
Yeah.
always something you want to be like, oh, hey, Michael, nice to meet you first time. Oh yeah, I have a dead sister. Like
Yeah.
you build that relationship and friendship, which can be difficult, and then you get to decide because I feel like that comes up a lot is, how many siblings do you have? And then it's like, well, what do I say? Do I say I have two? Do I just say one? Do I say one is dead, one is alive? Like all these things that went through our heads. But I think at the end of the day, it's like you get to choose. And even that can be difficult because depending on how early you are in your grief, you might feel guilty of like, do I leave my sibling out? Do I count them in? So making new friends and like, you don't have to, but you can. But like, right. So it's kind of like that nuance of like getting to share your pain with someone if you feel that they're a friend that you want to share that with.
Yeah, of course. And that's Very interesting. I'll get that question down here. Oh, how many siblings? Well, I'm one of six. I joke around. I'm number five. When we would, when we would visit, my mom if she was in the hospital or anywhere else, or my sister's number one, number two, Jimmy was number three, number four. Like I'm Michael, I'm number five. I always refer to I have three brothers and two sisters, but finding that right time, if someone's close to you, and yeah, this was my brother, this is what happened, like I'll give you an example. We have a Halloween party every year, and like my neighbors come over and friends from work and other people. And I had a dream like a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, and remembered that I had a piece of paper that Jimmy wrote on in his own unique style that all of his football picks, because he was going down to the corner to, lay the bets, week nine, 1991, whatever. And I forgot that I had it. And it's in a plastic bag in a trunk that's been there for 30 years. Just his handwriting. To me, it's art. And I found a
Hmm.
floating frame and put it up on my wall. And when people come over, they're like, what is that? And for me, that's a great gift to tell the story. That's my brother
Yeah.
Jimmy. We lost him 34 years ago. And that's his picks for week nine. I'll never leave him out of anything. I won't talk about him like, if they ask, of course I'll tell the circumstances. That's tough. Like when somebody new that you get closer to and you can really, I've had that happen where I've had friends that I really started to get closer with. And I'd say, yeah, my brother was murdered a block away from our house and it's never been solved. Like, and they're like, what? Like depending on who it is and how much detail um, but I'll never leave him out of anything. Like my mom and dad were really good. My mom kept the letter that I wrote, that I read, my siblings and I wrote, and I read in the church when I was 15. She had it laminated in a beautiful frame, and it was at her front
Mm,
door forever. It's still there
wow.
now, actually. But like she would not allow him to be forgotten under any circumstances. So, I guess it's a comfort level, right? When you make a new friend, or you can generalize initially, but when you really get close to someone, I would want them to know. I would want them to know the circumstances because it's true, and I'm not going to hide it from anybody.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it for me it also comes down to like just choice. Like you get to
Yes.
decide how much or how little. Like it could just be like, oh, they died. That's it. Like that's all you need to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how many are in Florida? How many are in New York? I still have one brother who's still in New York. Like most of us are down here. So it's like sometimes it'll come up that, oh, there's six of you, and I'll just say, yeah, we lost my brother at a young age, like 34 years ago, and that was another thing is going back for my mom's funeral 2 years ago because we took her back there because, well, not her, but, to the cemetery where my dad and my brother are. And the level of love and respect, I said to Jessica, I said, you're going to meet a lot of people today, right? And because the six of us and all of our friends, and my mom was like amazing to everyone. She welcomed everybody, and the level of love that they showed her. We were joking around that it was like a gangster funeral with that many flowers. She was a huge Yankee fan and a big Yankee display, and that was
Yeah.
because of the family she raised and how she treated people, and like that level of respect just made my heart smile because again, I know she's not there. She's with my brother and my father, and they're always around us. But yeah, it's just never letting your sibling go. Your sister's going to be with you wherever you go for the rest of your life. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably a great place to pause. And then we'll
Yeah.
just, anyone who's watching this, the Surviving Sibling Summit is going to be April 24th and April 25th. And so I'll put a link at the bottom. If you're a sibling, if it's, if you're 1 year out, if you're 50 years out, it doesn't matter. Is there anything that you would like to kind of say
Yeah,
to
just
anyone who's
I'm
watching?
so excited that we're all going to be a part of this. It's the Surviving Siblings biggest event of the year. You and I both had the pleasure of having conversations and episodes with Maya, and I think it's a great gift that we're going to be able to share our experience with anybody who would like to join us. There's multiple different sessions that are going to happen depending on what type of loss you suffer. There's the speakers will all be phenomenal. You'll have a lot of different options. And both of us, Stephen and I, are looking forward to seeing everybody who wants to join us.
Definitely. And just for reference, because I know anyone who's on the West Coast is going to be super early,
Yeah.
but on the East Coast time, it starts at 5 a.m. and goes till 5 p.m. and it's being recorded. So if you're on the West Coast like me, I'm planning to be up early because I'm a speaker and presenter
Yeah.
and I want to meet as many people as I can. But you also get the recording. So if you purchase a ticket and you're like, I have an event and I can't be there, something else is coming up, or you're on the West Coast and you're going to miss the first half of it, when you purchase the ticket, you'll get the recording so that you can watch those after. And I think that's a huge benefit that, a lot of places don't offer. So I think it's really cool that Maya is recording it and then you get access to watch it later.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you in advance to anyone on the West Coast who wakes up to listen to me talk at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
Right?
we're looking forward to seeing everybody. And thank you so much, Stephen, for having me. It's an absolute honor to talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Jimmy. And I appreciate you coming on.
You too. Thank you so much.